So good to go. Katie, Denise, Becky, we really appreciate the opportunity to chat today. I know we've had this on our calendar for quite some time, and I've been looking forward to it. Been doing a lot of research around the topics, and I'll get into my introduction, and Kelly will do hers as well. But I want to set the stage for the conversation. I don't want this to be a presentation. The one thing that the virtual world has taught me, it's that death by PowerPoint, it's not fun. It's not fun at all. So we got a quick little presentation here, but it's a discussion. And my goal here is that everyone on the call can walk away with some good ideas, some takeaways, sharing your experiences with all the other professionals on the call. With the pandemic, we're all in this together. With everything going on in the world, we're in this thing together. And the more we can communicate, and the more that we can chat and share the things in our best practices, I think the better off we're going to be. And we're presenting on the topic. It's pretty broad. It's called work-life balance. And I hear all the time, what is that? Because I don't know if we have it anymore. The lines are definitely blurred. And that whole shift from, hey, I'm going to get in the car and go to the office, or hop on the L and go to the office, and then at 5 p.m. I can leave. That's really not that big of an option. And so now you couple that with schools back in session, with kids running around, kids trying to learn virtually. It's not easy, and we get that. Our organizations get that. It's tough, and so today it's about work-life balance, our conversation, but it's about the unsung heroes, the parents out there, and some of those resources that we've seen that have helped parents, have helped organizations, and helped employees get and become more efficient in this new lifestyle that we're living. Hopefully it's short term. I truly believe it will be. And with that, we'll kick it off. We have a couple slides, a little bit about myself and Axion. Kelly's going to talk about herself and the Mom Project. You're going to see a lot of stats, and we're going to work through them quickly. I don't want to get bogged down. I want to get to the conversation piece and provide some of our insights that what we see going on in the marketplace and what our clients are doing to combat this issue and really help those unsung heroes out there. And by all means, if you have a question as we're going through, raise your hand in the chat, unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and let's have a conversation. So my name is Jake Doman. I'm from the organization called Axion Risk Management Strategies. I've been with Axion for about 5 years, and my past history is in public accounting. And I made the very quick transition from the corporate lifestyle into a much smaller boutique organization. We're based out of Downers Grove. We've been around for 32 years. Our goal and our objective is to work with middle market companies only. So our basic client is 50 employees to, we'll call it 3,000. We have a lot of folks in our office. We are benefits consultants that are risk managers and insurance advisors. And our big goal, our big objective when working with clients is how can we bring education? How can we bring communication to the middle market? We think it's a vastly underserved space. And so all of our folks are certified employee benefit specialists and masters in risk management and insurance. And if you can believe it, you actually can go to school to study insurance. I did. So pretty cool stuff. I love it. I'm super passionate about it because I get to work with individuals like yourselves every day. And I get to work with a lot of different organizations that do some pretty cool things. Chicago's got an awesome business landscape. And so that's me, that's Axion. I'll let Kelly take it away on her behalf.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake. Hi, everyone. Thanks for Katie inviting the Mom Project to be a part of this conversation. I don't know if many people on the call have heard of the Mom Project. We are an almost 5-year-old startup that is headquartered in downtown Chicago. And the Mom Project really was founded on this belief of, we like to call it work-life integration. I was laughing when you say work-life balance. Work-life integration, helping moms to understand that they can be participants in the paid workforce and professionals, but they can also be caring, present, and loving parents. And so the Mom Project today is a community of almost 350,000 working moms. We also have some dads and allies that are on the site. And our business really, it functions around hiring. We're trying to connect women and moms to economic opportunity But during COVID, I joined the team in January. During COVID, things have really changed. The world has really adapted to this remote life. And I think from the Mom Project's perspective, what we're hoping is this creates and unlocks more opportunity for moms, for women to work on their own time and in ways that work for them. Jake, if you want to hop to the next slide for me.
Yep.
Thank you. It doesn't take me to come on to this presentation to say the devastating impact that COVID has had. 60% of jobs that have been lost are impacting women. I think just in October, we saw about 865,000 women leave the workforce. And right now, we really feel like this is a crisis. There has been so many strides for women in the professional world over the last decade plus. And I've seen reports that they're calling this not a recession, but a she-cession. It's costing, if you look at the economic impact, upwards of $340 billion. So really what we're trying to do is not only connect women and moms to economic opportunity right now, but we're heavily partnering with companies from small business, mid-market to the enterprise space to understand how do we retain the parents that we already have. But we're hopeful, when we look at trends around D&I, over 40% of enterprises are looking at expanding their workforce in the contractor fashion. And companies are 2 times more likely to be looking at D&I initiatives to fill some of those roles, like the Mom Project. And so with these contractor opportunities, what we're hoping is potentially more remote opportunities will open up, more flexible opportunities will open up for moms so that you can still stay engaged and plugged into the professional workforce. So while we're kind of in this crisis mode and really doubling down on how do we help with retention strategies, when we look forward beyond whatever it is that we're in right now, we're hopeful that the future really holds a place for the working parents. And I'm excited to get into some of the things with Jake that can help not only working parents today, but also businesses that support them.
Awesome, Kelly. Appreciate that. Love it. Love it. I think it's a really good transition into the buildup of what's going on. You brought up a really good point, and I had the statistic at the top of the screen. 100% of people are affected by this pandemic. Well, yeah, duh. It's hurting everybody. But as we drill down and we really understand the mechanics behind the household and what's going on in life, it's 66% of parents continue to want to implement virtual learning with their kids. Yet a lot of them are saying they feel like they have less job security now that they have to stay home and help their children. 42% of parents fear that for their job because of the changing responsibilities of the household. I was talking with some coworkers the other day that have children, and they're struggling because that 9 to 5 day where they can go into the office, grab a cup of coffee, set up, do their work, get home, cook dinner, do all those things, that's no longer there. It's all blended. And they're worried that having responsibilities outside of work during the workday is affecting everything that's going on with their corporate careers. One thing that you'll notice throughout this quick little presentation is that there's a very interesting mind shift around moms and dads specifically, and how both groups are approaching this topic. 41% of mothers hide their caregiving struggles from their colleagues. They're in fear that they don't want to talk about some of the other issues that are going on outside of the workforce because, hey, we're here to work. They want to continue working through their career and get their jobs done and then go back to the families. And that's something that needs to be changed, and we'll talk about ways to do that too. And then 49% of mothers and 39% of fathers are not aware of any resources to manage work-life balance, specifically around this topic. And I think as we talk through this conversation, that's where we're going to move. And again, the next couple slides, they're going to go really quickly. All stats, everything that's going out in the marketplace, everything that we've gathered, all the data and intel that we've gathered from our clients in our big book of business. Some of the things are pretty interesting, and some of the ideas and opinions that are out there between fathers, mothers, folks that are working remotely, folks that are not working remotely. It's interesting and how the mind shift has changed over the past 6 months. 50% say if my employer takes measures to reduce costs, I worry that parents will be the first group that is negatively affected. It's a big statistic. 54% say I fear that my chances of receiving a promotion are diminished due to supporting my children at home. one thing that we've noticed too is there's a lot of uncertainty moving forward. A lot of folks have had to revise their career goals and ambitions. A lot of people are saying they're unable to perform efficiently and effectively at home. A lot of people feel disconnected. And so what are some of those things that we can do to get out of that isolationary state that we're in? You know, I'm coming to you right now. I'm in my condo in the city. It's just me here. No coworkers, no colleagues, no roommates, nothing. So after a while, it kind of gets to you. And how can we bridge that virtual gap and bring conversation, bring empathy, and bring that whole workplace lifestyle into the home? Interestingly enough, we polled a lot of leaders out there, and this is from our clients. They were saying essentially 72% of senior level mothers feel that reducing their hours and creating working in part-time, or they're saying that they're going to be working or quitting their part-time job. A lot of folks are hiring outside support. A lot of folks are leaving their children at home alone. And again, we're not recommending that depending on age, but these are some of the thoughts and sentiments that our book of business and all of our clients and partners have felt over the past 6 months. Here's how everything has changed too. It's kind of interesting. The one thing I'll say too is that I will send out this and all these stats after the conversation. So as we kind of quickly skim through here, don't worry if you can't connect with everything. What mothers are saying, I'm going to compare mothers and fathers and what they feel and how that they're approaching work-life balance. Moms are saying they feel like they're doing a lot of the housework and that's falling on their responsibility. They're preparing meals, they're giving medications to children, they're helping children with their homework, they're helping with virtual lessons and activities. These statistics are, in my opinion, pretty astronomical, specifically because the moms out there, they feel that that's their single responsibility. And how can we get them to also think that, hey, we're in this together, we're parents, we're doing these things, we have careers, we have goals, we're doing as much as we can at work, at home, around the household. Statistics are kind of shocking, and how moms think that this is falling on their shoulders only. And it's not always. And there's a lot of resources out there that folks can do to get help. And I think as we move away from what's going on in the marketplace and how people are feeling and how people are anticipating all these changes that are happening, a big piece that I've heard, and let me take a quick step back and say, I am in risk management, finance, and insurance. When I entered this marketplace, I never thought that I'd be getting questions around how to manage work-life balance. I never thought that I would be in the weeds on these topics. And over the past 6 months, we've gotten astronomical amounts of questions around this specific topic. What can you do? What's going on? How are people affected? And so that's given our organization the ability to shift our gear a little bit and really start focusing on some of the human parts of our industry. And so the impact of COVID-19 on parents' routines. A lot of people are saying that they've really had to modify how their caregiving responsibilities have changed. A lot of people are working outside of core hours to balance family responsibilities. And again, the comparison between moms and dads and how they see the shift going on today in the pandemic. Employer support for childcare. This is a big topic too. What are organizations doing to help their employees gain access to care? Not healthcare, but childcare. What are those resources that they're giving, those platforms, whether it's mentorship, online solutions, coaching, something? How are they adjusting? A lot of moms feel that they don't know about these topics. They haven't received flexible working schedules. And actually that statistic was shocking to me that as we've changed over the past 6 months, a vast majority of companies haven't really shifted their ideas and their, what's what I'm looking for, their ways of doing business around this new schedule. And as we're coming to a close on all the stats and all that portion, this is where we get into what companies can do. A lot of moms and dads don't realize that there's support groups out there. They don't realize that their employers actually actively looking into these topics and trying to provide different resources for them. A lot of folks think that, hey, this is my job. I'm coming here every single day. I'm getting my job done, and now I have to go balance everything else. And that's not the case. There's so much out there, and this is where we're going to open it up. And we want to understand from the employer standpoint what you all are doing, what you see as best practices. What type of expectations have you set on your employees and your teams? And so I'm going to pause here, hit a lot of stats, blew through things pretty quickly. I think we did that in 5 minutes. Now is the time where I want to hear from you. Because again, the takeaway for this conversation, this call, it's how can we help each other? How can we share best practices? So I'll pause and I'll let anyone jump in who wants to jump in.
Yeah, that was great, Jake. I noticed that in the chat from Philomena and Natalia, they were talking about what companies can do to assure moms and dads that their jobs aren't in jeopardy. And I love the idea of flexible schedules. I actually work with a company, and it was such a simple thing, but she put in the signature on her email that it was my hours might not be your hours. So if I respond to an email, and it was more eloquently stated, but if I respond to an email late at night, don't feel the need to get back to me right when I'm sending emails, so just kind of even putting that in your taglines when you're getting those late at night, early in the morning, or if you don't get a response back from someone for a couple of hours, that just understanding I think is so helpful. The other thing that we've instituted on our team at the Mom Project is a no apologies rule. So I am the mom to a fur baby, and he is 2 years old and obnoxious and barges into my office and likes to bark. And it's like that instinct is to be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, run and slam the door, like that clip you saw in the news years ago of the dad with the baby that walks in. So we implemented a no apologies rule. And what was really exciting is we spoke on an all hands for one of our clients. It was a big tech company in San Francisco. And the CEO actually posted on LinkedIn after that conversation. He's like, I'm implementing a no apologies rule for our whole company. If you're on and your kids start crying or someone pops onto the screen, don't say sorry. It's okay. Like we're all managing this work-life integration, and you don't have to apologize for it. And it's like, that just kind of gives you that a little bit more of a feeling of calm, right? That you don't have to be so stressed waiting for husbands and kids and dogs to burst in. So just a couple of really simple things that we've noticed.
Kelly, we started doing
I love it.
Our organization just 50-minute meetings instead of the hour. So there's 10 minutes back given so you can go take care of your fur baby or your kids, or just take 10 minutes for yourself and walk outside. And that's been really helpful. Some other departments in our organization has even started doing no meeting days. So on Mondays for one of my areas, they have no meetings all day so that you can get project work done. Because what we're hearing now is that Zoom fatigue is kicking in for your kids, for you. And sometimes you just need some time away and some mental health for people to feel more energized again.
I love that. That's so smart. I'm jotting down a couple notes because I think the 15-minute meeting, it makes so much sense. Just that 10 minutes is like, I can get a cup of coffee or whatever it is.
Hi, it's Natalia. So just to add on to my comments, something that I do, especially with my direct reports, is just give full transparency. If you need to drive, I have some folks that have older kids and they don't want to put them on public transportation for school, and they're in a blended learning environment and they have to get in the car and they have to drive them. I have some folks that have small children and need help with them. So just put it on your calendar. I think if you give permission to people to just, know that they're going to be watching their children or dealing with their families, and just breathing a sigh of relief that they don't have to hide that and run around, just throw it on your calendar. And we know that you're driving or you're taking care of your kids, and as long as you get the work done, I don't care if you're doing it at night, and whatever works for you, but just allowing people to be parents during this pandemic, because it's really difficult to find childcare.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And I think the other thing too, in addition to parents, you made a great point, the distinction between young kids and older kids. It's also caretakers in general. I was on a conversation yesterday with a team from a company in Chicago, and they were talking about taking care of their elderly parents in addition to taking care of their young children. And so we've seen a lot of really wonderful employee resource groups starting to pop up that are caregiver focused. So children, parents, whatever it is that is taking your attention, supporting them. Because I think, prior to COVID, you saw a lot of like women's groups, right? Like women in leadership. And I think that's amazing. However, now it's caregivers, it's parents, like you're kind of bringing your full selves. And so we've supported and we've seen, been witness to a lot of these really great employee resource groups popping up. And I think for HR practitioners, one thing that I've noticed is any way that you can support those parents that are stepping up to create those programs, because those parents that are creating the employee resource groups also have day jobs and also have home responsibilities. So, whatever you can do to provide content or to kind of support those creations instead of, putting that all on those parents, I think can be really helpful too, because as much as parents want those groups, it's hard to carve out time to actually create them. So I've seen some really great efforts from practitioners to really make sure that those groups are created and supported.
I've heard of 2 other companies that are doing some good ideas. I have not tested them, so I don't know if anybody on the call is doing this, but using Skype, where it's the red, yellow, and green. And if you are with your kids or you're taking some project work on, you put yourself as red, even though you might not have anything going on. And it just gives people permission. When you're green, they know they can reach out to you. If it's yellow, that knows that you're not around, and just really abiding by that. So I've seen a lot of, heard a lot of teams doing that. And then the last thing I've heard is that people are starting to use Outlook and color coordinating it. And they do it as an entire either division, department, or an organization. And if there's certain colors, you know that you can't bother them during that time. If it's orange and it's tentative, then you know you can probably put something on their calendar. And I thought that was very interesting too, because you're all in it together and you're all abiding by following these rules or these guidelines.
And Katie, I think you bring up a really good point, that last sentence you said right there. We're all in this together. We have guidelines. We've talked about it before as a company, as an organization. I've heard that being the number one piece to getting through all of this. Schedules change. Schedules change on a fly. Your kid's school might be open on Monday, and then Tuesday it's closed because of something. And so, understanding that flexibility has been huge for a lot of folks, but setting that precedent that, hey, we get it, we understand. Whatever's on your calendar, it might change. And I think that's huge. I think that's so important. For us internally at Axion, we use our Outlooks. I mean, we don't use any fancy technology. Our schedule is our schedule, and we make it a point to make sure it's as up to date as possible every day. And it could be, hey, I'm driving my kids to school. Hey, I'm taking 3 hours off between 11 and 2 o'clock to do lunch, go over homework, do these things with my kids, take a break, go for a walk. I think about my childhood. The biggest thing that I look forward to every day after lunch was recess. What are we doing right now for kids right around that? And so some of our parents at Axion have now formed recess around the neighborhood for their children, and it helps them get out, get the blood flowing a little bit, get some fresh air, helps the kids get out and do the same thing. So I think it's super important. I want to ask a quick question to the group too. This is, as we all are leaders and run different departments and manage teams of employees, what would you say to the other employer groups out there and the other leadership teams, best practices around managing employees and activity around COVID? And how do you best communicate to those employees that worry that, hey, if I have to take time off during the day or if I have to do these things, it's okay. Get your job done when you get your job done, get your work done. What are some of those best practices?
It's such a great point, Jake. I'll just jump in before anybody else does. I was actually just going to bring this up. I've heard a lot of talk around judging towards like business outcomes versus judging towards hours worked. And I think it's interesting, I've been in a sales capacity for the 12, 13 years I've been working. So I've kind of always been judged on an outcome basis. But, when you look at other roles and other responsibilities, how can we evaluate employees in a way that's not, working from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every single day? I would love to hear some feedback, because I've heard, like I said, speak of that in practice, though I haven't seen a lot of it. So I'd love to hear feedback.
Hi, this is Natalia. So in terms of that typical, 8 to 5, I work with a lot of different organizations that are having somewhat the exact opposite. They're either in supply chain, or they're in pharma, or they're in finance. and they're trying to figure out how to balance their employees who are putting in 12, 14-hour days, weekends, you name it, and they're just burned out. They're trying to deal with work-life balance, and they're burning out, and there's no end in sight. You've got low interest rates, people are refinancing, that's the whole financial industry. Pharma obviously is very busy, supply chain with food. So that was a question that was actually posed to us when we had some discussions around that. One was yours. How do we reward or measure folks without having this structured policy, and or how do we compensate those folks who are working crazy hours during the pandemic that might not have done so pre-pandemic? So I'm just throwing that out there as a part two to your question, because it's difficult. It's a fluid situation.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it's tough. We've been chatting with the people over at Zoom, Zoom, everyone's using Zoom and they're crazy. And I think what they're struggling with is their leadership team is predominantly men, and a lot of their wives stay at home. And I know that's not everyone's circumstances. However, that's their leaders. And they're really pushing this like, hey, we're growing. We need you to put in the hours, 15-hour days, but they don't understand that so many of their employees are juggling, being parents. Yeah. And I really think it comes from the top. And it goes, who was it? That was you, Natalia, that posted around empathy. I think we really need to push our leadership teams to have that empathy and understanding that their perspectives aren't everyone's perspectives. And I've heard at some companies, there's a lot of women that have stay-at-home husbands. So there's different variations of this. It's not just men with stay-at-home wives, but I think having that empathy and understanding and not driving towards these long hours or, unreasonable ways of working is so important, because it's not doable. And I think like we have a lot of clients, like I said, where contractor labor is picking up, where they're relying on us to put people in place for short stints to take some of that burden off of their employees. And so I think we're going to see a lot of that agile workforce coming back into play when there's obviously budget to do so. But it's hard if some of those things those procedures haven't been set in place yet.
Right.
I think it's so interesting that you're bringing this up, because the reason why I timed it that you guys came on in November is because I feel like now burnout's building up, right? When we first went into this in March and April, we're all in this together. We got this, we can do it. And now I'm starting to see it with my peers, even my engagement survey results that I recently got from my divisions. People are struggling where they're like, when is this going to end? I'm hitting burnout. What can we do? And so it's been very interesting about talking about priorities. What work really does need to get done right now? What work can wait later? And am I accepting the whole human here? Because even people that are by themselves, such as Jake, you living by yourself, what we've seen with studies is that you're able to output what two people could do versus a parent's able to do what half a person could do full time. So again, taking that all into consideration, we're all going to burn out unless some changes are happening and the employers are supporting that.
No, I agree. And I'll say this from my perspective. We're now, not even a quarter of the way through November. In my industry, this is our busy season. This is when all of our plans renew. And so to me, I had this conversation with our CEO the other day. I said, man, I felt burnt out in July when things were nice, when the weather was great, when, I could close my laptop at 5:30, and now that's not the case. And I know that's how the sentiments are of a lot of folks in our industry, as well as in your roles, because we work hand in hand all the time to get this thing pushed through, to get open enrollment done, to make sure all employees have ID cards and are set and are happy and are educated and communicated to. It's tough. It's extremely tough. And, my advice here, and this is what we're working, and I'm gonna say this, we're always actively working on as an organization to be better, right? To provide better policies, better processes, better communication strategies. We're actively working on how can we divide that time up for employees? How can we put that physical block in the day so Katie can stop working for half an hour, take a break, relax. And some of the things we've done And I want to just hit on a couple of these points that you see on the screen right now, but it's different weekly engagements, team engagements, unrelated to work. Hey, at 3 o'clock on Thursday, you've now worked 3.5 days. You're plowing through everything. You're extremely busy. We're going to take 45 minutes. We're going to hop on a Zoom call. We're going to have a cocktail. We're going to have a cup of coffee, and we're going to talk about nothing insurance related, nothing employee benefits related, but we're going to talk about what we're dealing with, how we can help each other. Heck, how was that Cubs game last night? Something that's not work. And putting in those physical blocks in the day has helped. Specifically, and I'll throw this out there, midweek when things are going quickly, doing a lot of good stuff. But to me, if I'm an employer and again actively working on this with our teams, putting in those physical breaks throughout the day is very important to helping with that burnout piece.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I love Becky's. Becky just posed a question like, what do you do when your employees aren't taking PTO? Which is such a great question. And
great question.
Our team earlier in the pandemic, oh gosh, I don't even know. It's like, what month is it? Back maybe like April. Our company actually gave us a couple of extra PTO days, which was amazing for mental health. And I was hoarding them. And I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to take them. The economy is struggling. I was worried about my job. We're all kind of in this position of fear. But what happened was one of our VPs who has 2 young kids, she started taking PTO. She's like, I'm going to start taking every Friday off for the next couple of weeks because I need Friday to just recharge and be with my kids. And when I saw my VP taking days off, then I felt empowered to actually use my PTO. And so I think that's one thing that companies can encourage HR practitioners to push your leaders to take their PTO days. And when people see their leaders taking time, they feel empowered to do that. I think it's hard when you see everyone working really hard or you feel this uncertainty. To want to take time off feels like lazy. There's so much stigma around it, which I could get on my soapbox about, I think is crazy. But that would just be one suggestion that I've seen personally that worked. I don't know if anyone else has any other thoughts.
We started adding more holidays. So Martin Luther King, voting on Tuesday, we were off. We did thank you days. So it was kind of like you're off. You don't have to be on. Everybody else is off. It helps because, again, you do have that group of people that are not taking time off.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I really think it has a lot to do with the stigma and the culture. And if leadership is taking time off and setting the tone from the top down, then people will go ahead and feel empowered to do so. But a lot of times it's like, I'm afraid to take the day off because I don't want people to think I'm lazy, or I don't want to take the day off because then when I come back, I'm going to have 3 times the amount of work I had before I left. So it's definitely difficult to navigate and encourage people to do so. And we actually added another time off bucket as well. And it was just like vacation time. It was called COVID time off bucket, and we were able to accrue those hours per pay period. We did have some pushback on that because some people didn't like the name of the time off bucket, and it worked just like PTO. But what I did notice is when the company shut down a couple of Fridays in the summer and gave everyone the day off, everyone came back so much more relaxed and recharged because they knew no one else was working. So Katie, I really like that idea of the thank you days where you can have everyone be off on the same day. So you're not feeling all that pressure to be the only one on your team not working and coming back to, 3 times the amount of emails that you left.
In our organization, we were just given time off during the holidays. They let us know in advance, kind of a gift from the leadership team, which was really great. And I think it was really important. We get together about twice a month via a lunch hour, the whole organization, just via Zoom call. And when our HR leader encourages us to take time off, and you've got senior leadership on the call as well, but when it comes directly from HR, we're encouraging you to use your time off and to go so far as do not worry about your vacation days. If you, for whatever reason, need some more vacation days in the next fiscal year, come see us. We'll work with you. Because 9 out of 10 times, people don't even use all of their vacation time, but you mentally are, again, it's the stigma, and you think that you shouldn't be taking vacation. So I think when it comes from HR, senior leadership as well, but really from HR, encouraging you to take the time off, it's really well received.
That reminded me that we've started putting together groups like not venting sessions, but a session where you can get together with single parents, and it's during your lunchtime. It's once a month that you start sharing ideas. It's kind of like a little committee, but it's worked out really well so that you don't feel like you're on an island by yourself. Me being a single parent, I feel like I'm doing twice as much because I have a child that's in first grade that's still learning how to read, and I have a third grader that's able to act like a teenager, but I feel guilty that I'm sitting here all day in meetings. And so I'm trying to figure out how to make that work. And I love hearing ideas from other parents that are in a similar scenario, suggesting ideas for me so that I feel supported.
Katie, I think that's a really good point, really great question. And actually, segues. My next question is going to be, from an organizational standpoint, how do we build on that communication and how do we foster dialogue? What are some of your best practices from AmFam? And I would love absolutely to hear from everyone else too on how we're opening up those lines of communication to make sure that we're connecting to employees, whether it's daily, weekly, again, and hope to clear up some of that isolationary feelings that employees get now.
We did a survey out to our people. It was part of our pulse, like our engagement survey, to figure out who was really affected by the pandemic, either for being single or being a parent or a single parent, whatever it might be, or a caregiver. And then we were able to come up with solutions, or at least experiments, to see how we can support those people. And then 3 months later, we ended up doing the pulse survey again to see where people are at, if any of those solutions or experiments worked, and then letting people know that these things exist. So we don't have Slack at our organization, but I'll tell you that some of my peers that are in HR are using Slack as a way to make those groups. Other people are using Facebook and creating a group for their company that has caregivers, parents, whatever it may be, and they're sharing there. And other groups have started committees. So just like you have an engagement committee, we've seen committees that are focusing on how to support parents in the pandemic, or caregivers, or people that are lonely and just want to talk to somebody. If you're living all by yourself, this has got to be a killer. It's been 7 months now, and you're not being able to have the same social life that you had prior. Human connection is so important.
Absolutely. I've seen and I've heard a lot of groups putting that physical infrastructure into this new balance, right? Setting up mentorship programs. That's why I have that point up here on the slide, bringing in those parent groups and pushing it extremely hard. Not just saying, okay, Katie, hey, if you have any questions over the next 6 months, we have this thing for you, but talking about it weekly, driving communication via email, phone, connecting employees with other employees and doing those things. We've seen that as a very good practice. And we're having a great dialogue right now. I'm just going to hit on a couple of these points really quick on the screen. From a resource standpoint, where have you and your organizations looked or reached out to bring in some outside resources for this specific purpose? That question's to everybody too, by the way.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I know what our company has done is we have a partnership now with Talkspace, like trying to offer resources just for mental health in general, right? I think, looking at people that live by themselves, or just anyone that wants to have someone to talk to, I think is helpful. I know a lot of insurance companies I've heard are also covering the full benefit for like therapy sessions, where there used to be a copay. I've heard now they're kind of like wiping out the copay for virtual sessions for therapy as needed, which I think is amazing. But it's challenging. I think you look at the communication that needed to happen for parents prior to the pandemic. I know, even before March, having, conversations with clients that I was working with around, how do we support moms as they go on mat leave? How do we support moms as they come back from mat leave? Like all of those things are still happening. during the pandemic as well. So making sure, I think too, that companies don't lose sight of some of the policy changes or implementations that they were making outside of just COVID are really important. And there's some really great companies that are popping up. A company called Clio is a great company that supports parents from the time that they're thinking about having kids to when women get pregnant to, you know, up to a couple of years after you have your child. There's online resources for that and how you talk to your manager. So there's really cool technologies, I think, that are evolving that support mental health, that support parents. They're hard to find sometimes, for sure, but I think that they're definitely out there. And I'm just excited to see companies kind of looking beyond traditional benefits to support their employees.
Kelly, the other piece I wanted to bring up, I apologize, I just want to make sure I get this out here. The piece that's been amazing to me, and I don't know if you guys have seen this out in your organizations, is people that are empty nesters or that are single that want to help parents or caregivers, where they're saying, hey, I live a couple miles away from you, I can pick up your groceries for you. Or if you need your daughter entertained for about 10, 30 minutes, I can get on a Zoom with them and I can read them a book. And so some of that, we want to make sure that we're getting our people involved in where they can help and give back, because what a wonderful feeling it is to help one of your peers that are struggling or just needs some time back. So again, I'm not sure if anybody's heard of that, but I've seen that picking up in spirit as well as we get into these holiday seasons.
That's awesome. I love that. I feel like that gives me goosebumps. Like, it's so nice. Just like a warm and fuzzy.
No, that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. A couple things to Katie, Kelly, the points you hit on. You talked about Clio, Kelly. I was doing some research on it, and I've heard that that name a couple times. Excuse me, over the past couple months. New interesting industry that's popping up called FamTech. I thought I've never heard that phrase before up until I was putting all this conversation together. Clio's been a good one. And there's a couple other pretty interesting organizations out there that are some social media based platforms, some other online platforms. Katie, that transitions into your point about building those employee groups specifically around those individuals that hey, I'm single, or hey, I live alone, I'm an empty nester. Can you get on and entertain my kid for 30 minutes? There are companies out there, nonprofits, tech platforms that have volunteers that do these things every day. And so my thought is, if I'm an employee, these are the resources that I need to tap into. If I'm an employer, these are some of the companies that I need to engage with. And I actually I drafted a whole list of them for everybody on the call that I'll send out to you after this. A couple other pretty cool things that I've heard about lately. I have never heard the term pods or micro schools, but essentially getting a group of, 5 or 6 folks together in a socially distanced area and or virtually, and having one parent coach or teach a different session. And it could be for a day, it could be for 4 to 5 hours. And those parent groups rotate throughout the week. And so I'll give an example. We're not a large organization by any means. We're about 40 employees, and we maybe have 15 different parents. And so we've done something similar where every day someone gets on and helps work through different online sessions with those kids and their respective children. So it's kind of cool. The one thing that, and I've done oddly a lot of research on this topic that I stress the most. I tell this to my friends, I tell this to my family, I tell this to the working parents out there, to everybody. With this pandemic, it's so important to build a routine. It's so extremely important to build a routine. And I know all of you have probably heard this too before, but when you get up in the morning, pour yourself a cup of coffee, pour a bowl of cereal, enjoy it, put on a shirt, go for a walk outside, come back through a different door, and then go into your workspace and create that clear separation between, okay, here's where I enjoy dinner with my family, here's where I watch TV and hang out, and then here's where I do work. Don't intermingle those two. Build separation, build boundaries, and specifically around times. I go back to that scheduling piece that I talked about 15, 20 minutes ago, and how that our organization is really driving home building a schedule into our outlook and trying to abide by it. It doesn't always work, but at 5 p.m., at 6 p.m. every day. It doesn't matter if I have a million emails coming in. I'm taking a break. I'm going to sit down to cook dinner with my kids and enjoy dinner. That's what I'm doing. Or every night at 9 p.m., it's bedtime. We go upstairs, read a book, listen to music, something. But whenever that time hits, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You put it down, put your work down, and you take that break. Setting those boundaries has been pretty key and pretty critical. So making everything work really well.
Yeah, I love that, Jake. I'm gonna need to step in and ask Natalia about this Irish bar pod school, because I can't just let that live in the chat.
So my girlfriend, we're from Chicago, and she her daughter goes to Chicago Public School, which, as you know, are closed. And so her daughter is actually the only girl of the 6 in the group. It's 5 boys, and then her daughter Sophia. And there is an Irish bar in her neighborhood. They have a back party room, and it's not being used at all, and especially during the day. And it turns out that one of the daughters that owns the bar, she just graduated with, I don't know, her education degree or something. And so she's teaching these kids in a private party room of an Irish pub.
I love that. Wait, can I ask what bar it is in Chicago? I'm so curious.
You know what? I'll find out. I'll text her right now. She'll tell me. But yeah, they have 6 kids, the people who own the bar, and it's a very popular one. I don't know which one it is, but I'll get you the name of it. But it's working out really well, and the moms and the dads take turns, like either bringing in snacks and maybe lunches, whatever. But it's great because they're all in the same class, and it's just worked out really well.
I love that. So resourceful. I know my mom lives in the Detroit suburbs, and she has her master's in education, but she hasn't worked in a while. My parents are retirement age, and she's doing pod school for her neighbors because she doesn't have anything to do. And she's like, I am stressed out with COVID, and it brings me joy to be able to do this. And it brings a lot of benefit to the parents. So I think like these neighborhood Facebook groups where you can just kind of pose these questions to find out like who's living next door to you that might have some extra time is really helpful.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's the highlight of my morning, Natalia. I really love that.
and I'm not going to say anything, but the parents might have a drink or two during lunch hour while they're waiting for the kids to come out. They walk them home. They walk them home.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
We have about 5 minutes left. I didn't know if there was anybody else that has a dying question to ask Jake or Kelly. Come on, there's got to be some questions.
What? Well, you guys are all thinking. Oh, sorry, Jake. Was that you that I just?
No, go ahead, Kelly.
Sorry. One thing that I just wanted to bring up before we hop off. First of all, thank you again. This conversation has been so fun. The Mom Project, we have a couple of resources if anyone wants to check them out, or if they want to, provide this to your employees. We have a mentorship group called Rally that is completely free that you can sign up to join. It's been a joy to me. I've been a mentor for a couple of months now. We also have Unity hours every Friday that are also free, promoting thought leadership that you can sign up for. And we have tools to help with building resumes if there are people that have been laid off or yay, Katie, that makes me so happy. If there's people that have been laid off or people that have taken career pauses, our tool Resume Rev will help you kind of build out your resume, and it does focus on helping moms that have stepped out of the workforce. So just a couple of things that we offer that are free. There's new things that are popping up all the time. So if you want to check that out, I just wanted to make that available.
That's great, Kelly. While everyone's thinking of that last question to ask, I'll ask everyone to do one quick thing, and maybe a couple of you on here could share. Give one piece of advice, one takeaway of what has worked extremely well for you over the past 6 months. Share that idea. Hopefully help somebody else too. And again, that's kind of our goal and our objective of the conversation is how can we share our ideas, best practices? How can we help each other out? We would love to hear that. Anybody? Oh, perfect. They're popping up in the chat. Love it. I was talking to a coworker yesterday, and she said her number one thing that she's done is she cooks every Sunday, and she meal preps for the week. And she doesn't build the whole everything in an individual container, but she makes 4 or 5 big meals, puts them in containers, and just so she can throw them in the oven, put them in during the week, so she's not actively cooking. And she goes, that saves me at least an hour and a half every day. And that's time that I can work. That's time I can spend with she has a newborn son, spend with my child, spend with my husband. And so that was one of the interesting things that I heard. And I thought, I love that idea. It's pretty good. Morning walks with the dog, love it. Just got on Audible too, Kelly. That's been a winner for me. That has been a winner for me.
I'm listening to Jay Shetty's new book, Think Like a Monk. Very interesting.
Ooh.
It just came out.
It's really good.
Did you read it?
Yeah. Right now I'm doing Rachel Hollis's new book that she has out about, gosh, what is the name of it? It's on my desk. Hang on.
I'm a big fan of Glennon Doyle, also Untamed. She has a couple other good ones that I've been reading. But she's great.
I didn't see that coming.
So yeah, I've heard of that. Do you like it?
I love it. Again, it just talks about like your mindset and how you can't plan everything. And I'm a type A, so I highly recommend if you guys are struggling with the pandemic. It's great. And then I started using my library where they'll deliver books to you or use their apps because it's free. Because I feel like I'm going through books quicker than I ever have before. So it's just nice.
My 12-year-old neighbor taught me how to use Hoopla and Libby are the 2 apps that connect to my Kindle from our library. I'm like, I had no idea. I love that.
Any other tips or tricks anybody wants to share out there?
Yeah, Jake, maybe you can collect some of these books and audibles and tip when you send out, post-session material.
I will. I'll include them all in there. And one thing I'll throw in there too is, I'm not gonna go through it now, but at the end of this little presentation, there's 4 or 5 slides of different resources, different links, different companies to work with. So I'll get it to the NHRC team, and they'll get it out to everybody. So please use it, and then use Kelly, use myself, use each other for resources. We're here to help. We're really in this thing together.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me this morning. This was wonderful.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
We can't thank you enough for these tips and tricks. This has been fantastic. You guys have done a wonderful job of just giving us new, innovative ways to think of things, especially at a time where people are feeling burnt out. So thank you again. Again, everybody feel free to connect with Jake and Kelly on LinkedIn. Check out their companies and their organizations. They have some great resources. We'll be sending everything out that Jake put together and Kelly so that you have those resource slides, some of the topics that came up and some of the tips. And then again, we'll send you guys out the YouTube channel so that if you weren't able to watch all this and you had to step away because of interruptions, you can check out this recording again. But thank you for everybody's time.
Thank you, Katie. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.